Buenos noches, hombres. It's me, QVR Killer, and we're back for Division 2 of League of Europe in... Wait, no, I said that in the wrong order. We're back for round 9 in Division 2. No, why did I say 9? Jack, I'm buzzed off my tits. Round 11. Should we do that again? Hello. Round 11, League of Europe, Division 2, Mexico City, at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. And I'm here with my Hermano, Ariel J. Cole. Less said of Division 1. The better, not least because I wasn't there, so it can't have been a very good race. How are you, sir?
Oh, I was going to start speaking Spanish, and then you kind of just did that, and it just threw me off, I can't lie.
The beauty of live anything.
Oh, fuck God's sake, man. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, though. I'm alright, I'm all good, you know. As you say, less said about Division 1 the better, but what more can you do? For round number 11, in season number 9, we're getting ever so closer to the end of this game. Hallelujah. I'm intrigued on seeing how this is going to go down in Division 2 for this evening. I said 7 more rounds left to go, including Mexico. Hopefully it's not going to be like what Division 1 was, but at the same time, the weather side, I'm intrigued if it does play something like that. I'm intrigued to see how this is going to go for this evening.
Well, it is fitting we've started the stream early after the travesty of Portugal last week. It took us about 7 or 8 minutes to get going, didn't it? Let's quickly go through the standings, and then we will see, because we are readying up now, what the weather has in store. Can throw up some spice in the air, some Mexican watery, liquidy spice. Ariel Felipe leads the championship. He's got a 14-point lead, and 10th place finish was all he could manage last week after damage early on, and then persisted with that damage through the opening stint. He's on 141 points, 14 points back. QVR Koskapen did win on track last week, was demoted in the stewards room. That cost him 7 points. So it's 14 back on Felipe, but is 3 podiums in a row now. That's 4 and 5 races going back to his win at Cota. Larkin's third on 104. Luke is now 4th on 93. He went from a win at Imola to a non-score at Portugal. Lifebout's in 5th. He's not scored for the last 2 races. Wasn't here last week. Crashed out from what looked like for quite a while an unassailable lead at Imola. Evans is 6th. He slipped 3 DNFs in a row after taking points in all of his first 7 races this season. Frustration creeping in him. Last week's race winner, T-Bram, is in 7th. More than 2/3 of his points have come in just 2 races this season. Wins at Monaco and at Portugal. Then it's Topin 8th. He's 1 point further back on 72. RJ is in 9th on 70 points. He's a marker of consistency. Only 1 podium this season. That was at Canada. Reservoir's on 58. And Scream on 50. Matty's on 41. Chris on 35. And then Miami 4S on 32. He's another one who's struggled for points lately. 13 points scored in his last 5 races since his podium at Monaco. And will 15th championship will end there because qualifying is starting. But Miami is someone who's looked rapidly, wickedly quick in qualifying sessions, Jack. But he's comes unstuck, shall we say, in the races, particularly when he's in close proximity to other drivers.
Yeah, he does seem to come a bit alive, and I mean, Mexico is one of those tracks that I would say does kind of suit him as well, so yeah, we'll see if he's able to do that for this evening. But I'll tell you what, the people that I'm actually looking at, of course, the one that ended up getting demoted from the race win last week, Mr. QVR Koskapen, and the one that actually ended up taking the win, both T-Bram and Koskapen are the 2 I'm looking at for this evening. Nolan, of course, as well. He's still leading this championship with 7 rounds left to go. He's still got just a little bit to hold on to. I think Mexico and Austria, as well as Zandvoort, are going to be his best chances of picking up decent points. Maybe even tonight's one as well for around Mexico. It's just that S section in the middle is where it's just going to play dividends for people that are on a wheel. So Yeah, I think tonight Austria, Netherlands, just after Singapore, are going to be the three races that Nolan still has a good shot, as well as Brazil, of course. I keep forgetting we are still finishing on Brazil. We're back to the old tradition.
With the sprint race as well.
I think are going to be as fun. Yeah, exactly. So that's even more of an opportunity for him to, still stay up ahead of Koskapen in this championship. It's really only the top three of Nolan, Koskapen and Larkin for this championship fight from the looks of things, and even then Larkin's only holding on to it by a thread, so we'll see how it goes, I reckon.
Well, as alluded to, this is very much a wheeled track. You've got that tight technical complex section in the stadium where Lix is now, and then you've got the tricky chicane to navigate of turns 1, 2 and 3, and then the S section in the middle of the track. It does lend itself very much to those with a wheel as their input device. 2.67 miles this track in old money, or 4.3 kilometres if you live in the 21st century. 17 corners, 10 to the right, 7 to the left. I've always wanted to do that. I thought I'd make an effort to do it on stream this time. So let's have a look at Lix. Attacking turn 1, they're using all of the curb at 1, and then just straight a little way right from the apex at 2 and 3, opens up the exit, uses some of that runoff there. You want to ease the car to the right hand side to open up turn 4. Heavy braking zone on the track, down to second gear, clobbers that orange sausage because that's not something you want to do. And again, the second part of the chicane gets away from it as a result, accelerates on the curb. Again, not something you really want to be doing. Hooks the car around turn 6 nicely, and then you really want to flick the car in to turn 7, down 1 gear, elects to go down 2, and then if you mess up the start of this complex, the rest of it is just inevitably going to slip away from you. But that looked tidy from Lix and could be a good opening effort. Turn 12 arrives at you very quickly, and then turn 13, opportune moment for a little lunge in the race perhaps later on. 14 and 15 is a non-corner kinker, then 16 where Bottas crashed in 2019, then 10, 17, another non-corner, side direct side for a short run to the line, and it's a 16.5. Behind him we've got a Red Bull, that's Koskapen's starting lap. Instead we've got a Ferrari, that's going to be Resvai's next to the line. And what's this going to be? It's going to be a 15.9, so lowers the bar by 0.6 of a second. Then we've got the two Mercedes, they're both starting their laps. So the next one, Rex, is also starting his lap. So it's going to be Matty who's going to be next across the line.
Yeah, we'll see what the poleman's able to do. He's just come through the stadium section now out of the final 2 corners. In that other Ferrari, again, another one that seems to be a little bit consistent, a little bit playing under the radar. He's 3/10 off his teammate though, getting it at 16.242. The time so far, obviously other than Tope, they're really split out. As I said, at Miami going just about 6,000 or 600s behind Lix, but other than that, all the times are really spread out in comparison to what we're seeing. I suppose early on it's going to happen like that, but yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people, for me, I do not like this track whatsoever, but yeah, I don't think a lot of people have really tried to not practice this track, but I think we're going to see a lot bigger gaps than what we would be expecting on a normal circuit, if I'm honest with you here, Jake, because looking at it, Resvai are only one of the 15s at the moment. All of them are now split by about a 10th, or just under a 10th, and just over a 10th on a couple of them. On each of them, it's Koskapen now the second one into the 15s and straight on to pole. He's really going for this championship fight, whereas our championship leader is sitting in 6th. And then T-Brum, I said those top two are the ones to watch out for, and they're currently proving me right with that. I'm intrigued if they're going to be able to create the same fireworks as what they had last week. Yeah,
Koskapen and T-Rum, sparring partners of Portugal, now locking out the front row after these first runs. What's Luke going to do? Didn't finish last week, or didn't finish in the points rather, 4th in the championship though at present, and he's just got the last couple of corners to navigate, 10 and 16 and then 17, and he's going to take that very tight line through the final corner. It's going to be not a competitive lap time particularly at all. 16.8 leaves him half a second drift of his teammate who sits in P7. Not been a great start for well, everyone apart from Koskapen really that's anywhere near the front of the championship. Evans Joshua's down in 12th, Larkin in 9th, Felipe coming in, he's in 7th. Koskapen, it's the ball's in his court very much. He seems to be the man in form for a time. That was Evans Joshua. For a time it seemed to be like it was going to be Larkin, but for 1 or 2 races at the start of the season it was very much Felipe who was the man to beat. And Koskapen seems to be that person. Now Lifeout had his moment in the sun as well, but Koskappen's got a very good run going under him. I said he's had back-to-back podiums, and he's on 3 podiums in a row and 4 podiums in 5 races. He is looking very motivated at this point in the season, it has to be said.
Yeah, it definitely does, and I'll tell you what, it's a bit of an interesting one. There's only one driver that's the only one that has scored points in every single race this season. And I mean, in every single race, not every single race that they've participated in, but in every single race, and that is our championship leader, Mr. Ariel Felipe. Which is a bit weird to say, because I feel like if you would have said that like 2 or 3 seasons ago, I don't think anybody would have believed you. But he's the only one so far this season, and it shows why he's a championship leader. He's the only one that has scored points in every single race so far this season. Last week in Japan were his 2 worst races in the League of Europe so far, picking up 10th place in both Japan and in Portimao. And he's looking to try and get a bit more of a redemption for this evening. I wonder if he's going to be able to do it for this season, though, Jake. If he's going to be the only one in Division 2 that picks up points in every single race this season.
I mean, it's a tall order, but he's done it for nearly 2/3 of the season already, so why not? I mean, points every race, no licence points to his name either. Clearly, he's reserving all of his pent-up aggression and frustration for Formula 2 on a Tuesday. That much is clear. His licks. It does a 28.4 in Sector 1. He's up by 6/100ths of a second. It says purple on the mini-map on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, but I'm not inclined. I don't think that's particularly accurate. So let's have a look how he attacks the middle sector this time. Turn 7, went into 4th gear that time. Clearly not confident on getting that turn in, that he's feeling the need to go down 3 gears there to hook the car into turn 7, into the start of that S section. He's up now nearly by the thick end of quarter of a second, although the car just strays a little bit deep at turn 12. He recovers it well for 13, picks up the throttle nicely, short shifts into 3rd, then 4th, and then flicks into turn 16, the last proper corner on the track. And I think it's going to be a much tidier lap for Licks. He's currently P12. Where's he going to go now? He goes P4, improves by half a second, joins Resify on row 2. And I don't know if anyone else is on a lap. Matty's on a lap. He's 7,000ths down in Sector 1, but that's he's still in a good place to improve later on. I think they are going in the second run, so pretty much the exact same order they were for the first lot. And let's have a look at Felipe. I think he's on a quick lap, and he is indeed. We've not really checked in with our championship leader today. Let's see how he approaches the middle section. He stays in 6th gear and then drops into 5th on the exit. Interesting, the approach there. I know he's on auto gears, but when he cuts the corner, goes invalid. And I don't know your opinion of this, Jack, but I feel like auto gears, I think it's going to be those twisty S sections. I'm thinking Maggots, Beckett's, the S is here, Kota, maybe it's Azuka as well. I think they're areas where auto gears can really cost you, because you can gain so much more cornering speed, I think, if you're just in the right gear, and it affects your turn-in as well, very subtly. So I think that will probably hinder Felipe a little bit here, perhaps more so than other tracks. Or am I chapping out my backside?
No, I can see what you mean, because I mean they're not going to be able to downshift to what they want. So I think Nolan's actually going for another lap. Matty did end up invalidating on his time as well. He's made his way into the pits. One of the McLaren, behind. I think that is Miami. Behind Nolan is out on another lap, and so is Larkin. Larkin just a little bit further up on the road, coming through the S section now, as well as Koskappen. In fact, I'll go on board with Koskappen because he's 200s up on his time, and as I say that, he's invalidated on his time. Spun. So we'll go back on with Larkin, and he's also spun. So every single person I'm going on board with, just for some reason, doesn't want to complete a lap, so I'll try and pick it better this time. But I'm running on board with our championship leader at the moment, and I know you're saying that auto gears were hindering, could sort of hinder through the S's, but Nolan actually looked like he took that really nicely. He's 600ths up on his time, which will put him up into P8, up ahead of Sen and Chris. But yeah, I think the stadium section is where I would actually say the auto gears would hinder him more, because it's such a slow section. The game is just going to put it down into a lower gear, and in fact Nolan's actually come into the pits. He must have run out of ERS and run out of fuel, and yeah, Miami also going around as well. But yeah, I feel like that last section is going to be I think that's more of a killer rather than the S section, especially on this track, because as I said, it's quite a slow section on the circuit. as I said, again, just going to put him down into an even lower gear than what he would really want to be in coming through the stadium section. So I feel like that is just going to cost him more time. What a time that is from T-Brum, 1:15.5.
I feel like T-Brum is that kind of driver who has worldies of races or has absolutely shockers. There's no middle ground with him. Reminds me a little bit of Forza Brendan, I think, is very much of that character. I think, is that Resify that's... Oh, no, sorry, it's a CRD Sense, just to prove. He's gone P5. We're just having a look at Luco 5HD, who I think is... He can be on an in-lap. Or is he? I can't tell. No, I think he is on an in-lap because he's going too slow. Oh, no, he's not slow. Yeah, he's on a lap. I couldn't judge my timing at all there. I didn't realise how short the end of that was. 16.3 goes P9 and ahead of his teammate as well, for an added bonus there. We've got the Scream now coming around turn 16. He's down at 15th place on a 16.7. The entire field's covered by, well, for the most part, 1.3 seconds. You've got RJ and Taupe as outliers. Scream does improve a little bit onto a 16.6. Doesn't gain too much in the way of time. Evans, though, is... down in P16 right now, but he's had a very good first sector and then he's ruined it at turn 4 and 5. Went very deep, might have hit the curb, and then was just compromised through 5 as well. And it's very hard to gain that time back when you lose it, but he is improving nonetheless. And he is someone who desperately needs needs a good week.
I probably would have just stopped talking there.
Oh, and Taupe's gone as well.
Oh god, I tell you what, it really is, and I feel like this race more than any other on the calendar is a race of attrition. It's more the case that it's so easy, and we saw it in Division 1, it's so easy to pick up a penalty around here. So for everyone to be, I mean, Evans may not still be in a bad spot. Anyone, I feel like, can still come through this field and actually have a decent result. I mean, Evans retiring now, as I say, means he's going to be starting at the very best P16, but of course RJ hasn't really done a representative lap, and neither has Taupe, so yeah, I feel like Evans is going to be the one starting at the back for this evening, but at the same time, as I say, anything can still happen. As long as it doesn't rain, I feel like Evans has still got a decent shout, considering he's sitting 6th in the championship. He has DNF'd in the last 3 races, so hopefully he doesn't do that again for this evening, but I don't know. We'll see how Evans goes, because we know what he can be like, you know, pace-wise. So I don't see any sort of reason why he isn't still within this championship fight. Just right on board with RJ though. He is just making his way through the final sector now, through the stadium section, down into first gear he's shifting into. Okay, I've not seen anybody do that before, but we'll see what RJ can do at the end of this lap as he's just making his way around the final corner now, and up towards the line comes RJ. 16.6 goes up ahead of Evans, but only goes into P16 behind that Scream. So RJ not really having a decent time, and I think Matty is going to be our first one to cleat into.
Oh, Nolan's gone.
There, Jay, because Nolan's out. Ooh.
Nolan was gone for an early final lap. We've seen that a few times from him this season. Did it at Portugal last week. Went very early. Was 3/10 up on his time. That would have put him threatening the second row of the grid. And then he just lit up the tyres coming through the last corner. Too happy with the loud pedal, and he is out of this session. Our championship leader, and he's going to start no better than 11th place. RJ, a bit surprised at his lap, you were taking us through it. I would have thought this is a track he'd thrive. It's a wheel favouring track. I thought he'd be doing a lot better. That was a tidy lap from him. It just wasn't quick at all. And Evans, just one thing to say on him, I think I don't know if you agree, but I think he's the kind of driver who tends to get in his own head a little bit. And when one thing goes wrong for Evans, it all goes wrong. And I think he does have that tendency to spiral that you can see in some league races where, you know, they just, if it's not going perfectly for them, they struggle for it to go their way at all. And I think Evans is one of those. Matty goes P4 with a 15.991, less than 10th adrift of his teammate. He is the first to complete his lap. Who is going to be the first to start their lap? It's going to be Licks, but we've had enough of Licks today. So let's have a look instead at the man right behind him, ERT Larkin. No longer right behind him because Resify has just passed him. Wait, Resify is invalid, and I don't think if he was on the lap, he wasn't improving anyway. So let's go for Larkin, shall we? third in the championship, had a shoddy couple of races, needs a big result. And with Felipe down in 11th place, or no better than, on the grid, this is Larkin's best opportunity. 7 points scored in his last 2 races since Bahrain. A race he absolutely could have and perhaps should have won. So let's see what he can do with just 2.5 miles ahead of him and turns 1, 2 and 3 with an eternity to think about it, and some cars in front of him as well, including his teammate Miami, and he's gone invalid on the approach into turn 1. Not what Larkin needed. He'll have to build up his ERS and reset for another run.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Larkin. I hope he's not still using that ERS. I think he has turned it off now though, so yeah, he needs to build that back up ASAP, which means that Miami's going to be going to start a lap up ahead of him, if I'm not mistaken. Matty is into the pits, and that is him now done for the session. I am riding on board with Lix. I know you said we've got on board with him, but he's still, I think, the next one that's going to finish a lap anyway, so I'll still ride on board with
his ERS
anyway. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. So he's not going to be completing a lap at the moment then, so I believe it is, where's the other Williams? Tope, I think is going to be, never mind, he's also invalidated. There's so many people invalidating.
I'm trying to find a lap. We've got, I think we've got T-Brum and Koskappen might even be the first 2, and they've only just started. Koskappen is up by 3/4 of a tenth in the first sector. I don't know if anyone else is there. We've got a Alpine going, Williams in the middle, but I think they're just getting out of the way.
Yeah, definitely are. I think, in fact, it might actually be, it is T-Brum. So T-Brum is going to be our next one. There's all massive tank slap right out of the double rise of turn 7 and turn 6. Yeah, so T-Brum, I think, is still looking to try and improve again. Another bit of oversteer from the Canadian. Not having the very nicest S section. The sector 2 was very, very shoddy, and yeah, 2.5 tenths down on his time. I don't think T-Brum is going to be looking for an improvement on his time. I won't be surprised if he just comes straight into the pits. As now the session is over, that screen has binned it out of the S section. So let's have a look and see what our current pulsator is going to do. He is just going to come straight into the pits. So 15.5 is the best he is going to have so far. Yeah, Luke, we're seeing what he is going to do as he's just making his way out of the final corner now. 2 tenths up on his time. Does a relentless driver go and improve? He does, up into P5, 2 thousandths up ahead of Lix. Lix is also improving on his time though. This looks like this could be a decent qualifying position here for Lix. Hopefully he's able to do that in the race as well. Reservoir, I also saw behind him, is up on his time by 4.5 tenths of a second. So this is challenging T-Brum as he has a massive slide coming out of the final corner. Lix goes up into third. Reservoir would have been on pole had he managed to finish that lap, but unfortunately that oversteer moment out of that final corner, that's cost him. Larkin goes up into 6th. Darry is our final one to complete a lap, as well as RJ right behind him. The German is making his way around the final corner. Again, he was 3.5 tenths up on his time, and this is going to put him up into P2. A front row start for Darry as RJ goes up into 10th. What an end to that qualifying. Reservoir, I've got to say, I think Reservoir's just completely bottled that at the end there, Jim.
Yeah, we didn't quite catch that as we were just dropping back from Lix as he was sliding into the pit lane. But yeah, that was very much a case of a last man standing. I think at the end, I was trying to frantically flick through the field, and I was seeing people seconds down on their PBs, and I was seeing red mini maps everywhere. It was just about who could get a lap together, any lap together at the end. And in the end, Darry and Lix were the ones, and Larkin and Luke as well, all made big gains at the end. Although Larkin, that was his second lap on those tyres, given he bottled the first one before he'd even got to the apex of turn 1. T-Brum takes pole position, last week's race winner. He's going to lead off D1 relegation driver IRT Darry. Then it's Koskappen and Lix on row 2. Then Reservoir, Matty, Larkin, Luke, Sen, RJ, Swiros, Tope, Chris, Felipe, Rex. Miami's down in 16th ahead of Scream and Evans on row 9 at the back of the field. But the entire grid, 15 drivers covered by less than a second, and the other 3 weren't that far behind either. So I think this is finally poised, and it was very much a case of, you said it would be a race of attrition. I think that was a qualifying session of attrition if ever there were such a thing. Critical errors made, most notably Felipe, but we shouldn't single him out. Lots and lots of drivers at best went invalid, at worst made spins. And look at the state of this. And this is not going to play into your hands at all if your name is Evans Joshua or Ariel Felipe or Miami 4S or anyone in the back half of the field, because in heavy rain conditions like this with no DRS, there is going to be no hope in hell of getting many overtakes done. But we're open to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I'm intrigued now then. So with this, it's a heavy rain, so it's looking like it's going to be full wet tyres. I wonder if anyone in that qualifying session went for a wet setup, and that's why that they're a bit lower down. Like RJ, for example, you would have thought that this was a track that would suit him well, and he's starting down in 10th position. Again, maybe Nolan as well. I know he just said in the chat that he would have been second, but I don't know. There is the opportunity. Maybe Koskappen as well. I feel like he definitely could have done a better lap, about 2 and a bit tenths off of T-Brum. Who knows? He might have had a bit of a wet setup, not wet setup, but a bit of a to make it more wet inclined, shall I say, for his setup for this evening. We'll see though. We'll see. Is it full wet though? Let's have a quick gander at that. It is full wet. So I wonder how long the full wets are going to last. If it doesn't last all race, and if it does last all race, then this definitely has become a race of attrition.
What you'll want to see, really, if you are changing your setup, is you want to see higher wings only, particularly on the rear, and a higher ride height. I don't think there's much else they can change. But I feel like I've got to hope this is not wet all race. Do you want, this is a left field suggestion, there's a Ferrari flying into the wall in the background, not once but twice. Do you want to quickly nip Ariel J. Cole into the party chat with our good colleagues in the McLarens and get a weather forecast for the rest of the race and be back before the start? Or
I can do that very quickly.
That's so let's get a weather forecast and I'll talk you and I'll ramble through the formation lap here. We have got, well, it's T-Bram and Darry, isn't it? We've got T-Bram, who's come up from Division 4, Darry, who briefly was in Division 1 at the start of the season. So these guys, Darry and T-Bram, aren't particularly of tremendous D2 pedigree. Darry's been had one season in D2 last season, was in D3 before that, and was D1 at the start of this season. T-Bram has been D4 all the way. The AlphaTauri's skirting across the baseball field there. So it's and we've got Koskappen, a D3 champion. So we've got pedigree all the way through the ranks of League of Europe at the start of this grid. Resify himself has been in Division 4 and Division 1. And Larkin, former D2 champion, and Luke has been a D3 champion. So we've got lots and lots of league racing, League of Europe pedigree through the field. We've got Ariel J. Cole back. So what is the weather?
Just to go word for word from what they said, sources have said that it is pure shit. It is full wet the entire race, so it's going to make this a very, very interesting race, Jake. It's Darry versus T-Brum off of the start. Koskappen, we know, has also a little bit of a good wet merchant. Same with Larkin, same with Luke, as you were probably just saying before I joined back in. I think this is going to be a spicy race. It's
going to be a spicy race. It's full wet all the way. It's the Mexico City Grand Prix. May God have mercy on our souls. It's T-Bram on pole from Darry, from Koskappen, from Lix. It's lights out and we are underway. And T-Bram got a very clean start there. Koskappen straight up into P2, and he's going to try and nab a slipstream behind the back of the Mercedes as well as they pile towards turn 1. Darry's now under attack from Resify. Might be trying to go steam around that side. Look at Luke up the inside of turn 1 there. Darry's going to get pinched, sandwiched in the middle there, but I think they've avoided contact at the start as Darry gets sucked into the midfield there. T-Brum leads away from Koskappen from Resify. Luke's up into fourth. Larkin Smith, a big slide to Resify on the exit of turn 3. Let's have a look further down the field if we've got any battles there. Larkin's now challenging Luke towards the outside of 4. He's got to be careful because he's got Sen behind him. Alpine and Williams warfare into turn 4 as well. Darry's now down to 9th place. He's losing places hand over fist, and then he's just lost the rear of his car as well. He's plummeting down now into 13th, 14th place. We've got a few moves going on there. That's Rex and the Scream battling away for P11. Felipe's lost place. He's down to 15th. But up at front, it's barring Darry's atrocious descent down the field, Jack. it's been a very tidy start for all involved. T-Brum leads Koskapen, and T-Brum already stretching his legs there. He's got over a second lead, 1.3 seconds. In fact, as Reservoir goes dawdling off the track at turn 12.
Yeah, no, he certainly does. But yeah, I mean, not only has Dari had a bad start, RJ also down into 17th in the second last position, and Dari's lost yet another place to our championship leader, Mr. Ariel Felipe. Dari is not having fun in the wet whatsoever. Oh, and so is Dari. So Dari must have picked up damage. Matty must have also picked up damage. That's probably why he was descending through the field at an extravagant rate. Yeah, Matty getting his wing changed, and I believe we'll also see Dari getting his wing changed as well. Luke trying to defend from Larkin though, down towards turn 1 and through turn 2 and 3 as Lifeboat has just joined the session, so he's a day late and a dollar short, as Mr. Martin Brundle would say, but that is actually just for getting into a car for this session, so he will go down as an AWOL. Sweet Ross and CRD Sen both side by side going down in towards turn number 4. Sen on the outside to have the inside for turn 5. Is he going to be able to hold that one? Sweet Ross goes a little bit deep in towards turn number 5, but manages to keep on the exit, and they're still both side by side with each other. In fact, Sen's going to have to inside for the double rights. Still both side by side. Sweet Ross will have the inside going in towards the S section. I think Sen's going to have to give that one up. Sweet Ross, nicely done. Good battling between the pair of them. A little bit of an oversteer moment though from Sweet Ross coming through the S section meant that Sen had to sort of pile on, and the brakes Tope almost going into the back of him as well. But yeah, Sweet Ross getting that move done. More yellow flags. That is Licks down in 16th position, having a spin as Rex looking to go for a move on Evans, and that is a virtual safety car.
Yeah, that saved Evans' bacon. He had a big slide coming out of turn 11, the end of the S section. But to be fair, a few of them did. They'll be sliding all the way around to Texas for the next 35, make it 34 laps as T-Brum crosses the line. Not sure what the VSC is for. Presumably it's because Licks has hit the wall and dumped a front wing on the track somewhere. Looks like it was at turn 8. But T-Brum, he is... While everyone else is suffering in a thunderstorm, he's chilling in his jacuzzi out front, isn't he? 3 seconds clears. Matty gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under the VSC. It was a very quick VSC. Tope's been an opportunistic in that. He's nabbed a place from Sen as they come towards turn 1. Sen could be losing or trying to gain that back on Tope now as they come through turns 1, 2 and 3. And look at Tope in the background, Sweet Ross and everything getting involved in there. And contact not once but twice, and Leicester go right aboard with Evans. Joshua is 4 wide on the exit of turn 3 there. Rex is onto the grass. Felipe's gaining places in this. He's up to P11. They're still battling ahead, and we've got the Alpine of Sweet Ross and Evans Joshua. They take each other out of the picture completely and then skid straight back across track into the path of championship leader Ariel Felipe. Chris is off the track in the background. Felipe's gained another 2 places from that. He's now into P9. The one Alpine's off the track. That's Chris as he goes down the field. Miami, Evans and Rex gain places in the process, and RJ as well. Evans is side by side with Miami into turn 7. And Miami just about comes up on track, but he goes a little deep through turn 9, and Evans going to try to sneak around the outside of 10. Can he make that stick? He absolutely can. They slide in synchrony. Rex off the track again in the background. RJ makes a place for his troubles, and then Chris makes another one as they're side by side coming to turn 12, and Chris, in fact, can't make that place when Rex, yes, you can see T-Bub's its fastest lap of the race, 31.2. Well, that was pure wacky races mania in the midfield. Our top 3 are now spread by nearly 10 seconds. Let's have a look quickly at the fastest laps on that lap. 31.2 for T-Brum, 31.9 for Koskapen as Licks has crashed out at turn 9. Is that going to be a safety car? It is a full safety car. But Reservoir, look at the fastest lap tab, Jack. Reservoir's lap last time around, 2.5 seconds slower than Koskapen and 3 seconds slower than T-Brum. I'm not sure exactly when the VSC went in, but T-Brum and Koskapen being at the front, they've been more impacted by a VSC, impacting their lap times. Those top 2 are so quick compared to the rest of the field.
I reckon that as well, but at the same time I also feel like Reservoir definitely made some sort of mistake in that lap, because he already had a gap as well ahead of Luke. And then, well, that's now going to be diminished. T-Brum's, I don't think it's going to be too happy that that a full safety car's come out either. I tell you what, Dari and Matty, they're going to be very happy. Matty can actually serve his drive-through, because he picked up that drive-through under the virtual safety car. He should be allowed to come in and serve the drive-through. When I was saying that, I think he has been into the pits and it didn't serve it for him. So maybe he isn't allowed to serve it. I would have thought he would have been allowed to serve the drive-through, and he's kind of, I don't know why he's stopping close to the safety car, but yeah, a bit of interesting dynamic. It started off very cleanly, and by lap 3 it just went, well, after that virtual safety car, it's kind of gone down the drain here, Jake. And I mean, T-Brom is, as I said, he's still going to be leading, Koskap in second, Resifies in third. Dario, what a day for him. I don't think he's going to be too happy with what's gone on for this evening.
I guess this is the kind of race where you've just got to hang in there and just lurk for something to happen. As T-Brum is slowing right down there at turn 2. Perhaps he's still delted. He is delted, in fact, even though he's crossed the line to catch up the safety car. There's opportunities to be had here. I mean, we're going to get all 17 drivers still in the field reconvene before the safety car comes in. The safety car will be going at quite a slow pace given the weather. Let's just check in with position changes. T-Brum has stayed where he started. Koskap's gained 1 at Darry's expense, and the Resify, Luke, Larkin have all made modest gains. Big gainers. That Scream is up 9 places from the back row to P8. And Felipe and Evans also capitalised heavily on that dramatic lap 3 that we were seeing in the middle of the pack, involving the 2 Alpines, the Williamses, God knows who else. So I think the start of this race has probably gone as well as Felipe could have hoped. Up 5 places. There's a safety car to bring him back towards the front runners. He's got Luke as a rear gunner to back up Larkin as much as possible. So I think Felipe will be fairly content with how the start of this race has gone. Although, we need to shift our attention really away from Larkin, don't we? It's no longer Larkin that's his problem. It's Koskap, the man in P2, and he is comfortably clear of Luke, both on track and in pace right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, you still can't rule out Larkin in this championship fight. I think this happened a few seasons ago, back in season 6, I think this was, or season 5, where he actually won the championship. And I think he was ruled out, I think it was a couple of people that were ruling him out already from it early on, and even midway point of the season when he was roughly about the same points margin down at that time. So yeah, he's still got the opportunity of bringing this back. He is sitting in 5th at the moment. Obviously, Koskap, fair enough to him, he's sitting in 2nd, and Nolan's sitting down in 9th. So this is a good opportunity for both 2nd and 3rd of both Koskap and Larkin to get a few more points back on the back of Felipe. But at the same time, you still can't rule out what Felipe can do, especially considering he's made up 5 positions in the space of not even like 2 racing laps so far in this race. Of course, the start did look a bit shoddy, and I saw that screen go off track at the start, and I think he made a couple of places, but I think it did end up giving him back in the end. And he's up into 8th already, so there's definitely opportunities or overtaking opportunities that can go down for the rest of these guys. I don't think the safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap. Oh no, it might be in at the end of this lap actually. I believe it will. So, or if Darry and Matty can also catch up, then I think we should have the safety car in at the end of this lap. But yeah, I've from what we've just seen in those first couple of laps, Jake, I think T1 is already a confirmed winner if he doesn't bin it. Koskap, he was doing well trying to keep up with him, but I think T-Brum is just in a class of his own in this race so far. I don't think there's anyone that's really challenging him, to be honest with you.
I mean, if he doesn't bin it, is a tall order for D2, it has to be said. We could get a very late call, and we have got a very late call. So T-Brum's going to back off. He's at turn 16 now, and let's look back from him and see when he elects to go. Presumably, he's going to want to go as late as possible. I would not be confident putting the power down going round a bend, and he lets loose now as they rocket down the straight. A second lead he's got already. Safety car is still out on track, by the way, but we're back under green flag, and everyone is, I think, slowing down out front. Perhaps we aren't. No, we're not, because we've got some racing behind us. We've got Felipe, Tote, and the Scream. We've got the 2 Williams in action. I think some people are being held down the safety car, some are not, because we look at Felipe, is still going at this, and I'm very confused as to the situation we've got going on. T-Brum is clearly been told he can't race, but the 2 Williamses and Felipe appear to have been told otherwise. We've got Larkin and Sen switching places as well. I think there's a bit of confusion going on here, perhaps understandably.
Potential glitch, maybe? I don't know what's going on. I've not seen this before, ever.
Do you want to check with our sources again?
I can see them on the side of the track, where the little black boxes are that'll tell you if it's a flag or what. But there is still a safety car flag, so I guess. Oh, I know what this is. So the safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap. That's what I think it is. If it's not in by the end of this lap, then I'll check with our sources. But I think the safety car is in at the end of this lap. It just called it extremely early.
I think it is at least partially bugged because the yellow flags have disappeared from the track map and the timing tower. So I think there is a partial bug here, but hopefully the safety car does come in this time. T-Brown is backing them all up. We have still got the yellow flashing boards at the side of the track that indicate it is a safety car, although the game is not telling us that it's under yellow. So is the safety car going to come in? Please do. I think, yes, it is coming into the pit lane. Thank the Lord. And we can now, for the second time, and for proper this time, get underway. So T-Brum has let it go, and Koskapin, I think, had a bit of a squirm there out of the last corner. He's going to be very vulnerable. It's going to be 3 wide between himself, Resify, and Luke as well. Luke's up the inside here. He'll be a brave man to pinch it up the inside of 2. An angry Red Bull and a Ferrari there. But I think Luke is going to go for this up the inside. No, he's not. He concedes the place. Resify sails on deep, though, at the end of turn 1. He's going to be very compromised now through 2 and through 3. He's going to be slower down the straight, but I don't think Koskapin has the exit to challenge him. Instead, it's going to be Luke threatening the Red Bull instead, and he breezes past that Red Bull on the exit. Can Larkin do anything about this as well? No, he can't. He's going to have to settle for P5 once again. But Koskapin, terrible restart from him, down 2 places. And what are you seeing in the midfield? We've got Evans and passing. That's the Scream who spun round. Sweet Ross is in a battle with Miami as they come towards turn 6 here. And Miami's got the inside line. Sweet Ross is going to have the higher, faster line on the exit. And it's going to drag race towards turn 7. Who's going to yield this one as they come towards the corner? I think it's going to have to be Miami. And it is.
Yeah, so it was actually Sweet Ross that spun that Screamer around. It was going through turn number 4. Sweet Ross had the inside, that Screamer's on the outside. I don't know if it was Scream just turned it too early and that was Sweet Ross spun him around, or if Sweet Ross broke a bit too late and just sort of spun him around that way, as Larkin coming around the outside of Koskapin just before the stadium section.
And Sen as well.
Sen also diving it in the inside towards the stadium section as well. To have the outside, that medium traction for him is really working, and it's a 3-second time penalty for him. The first one of this race. You can't also forget, Matty has got that 3 seconds drive through, that he does still need to serve, so he will probably be in at the end of this lap. And now we are going racing properly. Sen trying to push Koskapin away as much as possible. Now going to the inside to go and defend from the Red Bull. There is also a Williams charging. That is Tope all the way up behind him. He is closing into these two. Very, very close, as well as Nolan. Also trying to see if he can go for a move on Tope. Both switching back with each other. This is good battling between Sen and Koskapin, and Sen gets that move and keeps that position. Very good battling between those two guys, and now it's put Nolan. He can see his championship rival out in front of him, and he's just got to get past Tope, which I think he's trying to do. Down the inside towards turn number 4. Sen, I think, is having to give that place back as he makes a mistake. Massive bit of contact between Koskapin and Sen as well, coming through turn number 5 and now through turns 6 and 7. Yeah, it's very sort of difficult with these two, but at the same time, I think Koskapin still has to yield that place to Sen, and Sen keeps that position up ahead of the Red Bull. Tope now trying to put Koskapin under pressure. I wonder if the Red Bull has any bit of damage, because this was not the pace we saw from him at the start of this race.
Well, I can't imagine where he would have picked it up. I wonder if he's just lost his rhythm under the safety car, perhaps. I think it particularly can happen in the wet more so than anywhere else. I don't, as far as I can tell or saw on the restart, he didn't hit anyone. I think he's just a little bit flustered. As T-Brum says fast lap of the race, he's had 3 seconds clear of Resify, and Sen is just consolidated P5 a little bit. It's Koskapin, as you say, is the vulnerable one with Tope, Felipe, Evans, Sweeros all lurking behind them. And Miami's just about hanging on to the coattails of that as well, as is Rex. It's an unbroken train from Sen all the way down, but I think Sen is starting to pull away just a touch from as you say, the ailing, struggling Koskapin right now. I think Tope has got a very clean exit out of turn 3, but he's not close enough to make any impression on the back of Red Bull, who I think has just settled down now because he had a very good first couple of quarters there, he's pulled Sen right back into range.
Yeah, no, he certainly has. So we'll see if Koskappen's able to maybe go for another move on Sen, or if Sen's going to be able to hold on his position. Like I said, Sen, I can see he is on medium traction, so he's going to have the better traction in the wet. I know that it is definitely a bit better using this in the wet if you can utilise the medium traction. Then yeah, it is definitely very nice to drive in the wet, as Chris picking up the second 3-second time penalty of the race so far. Only 2 3-second time penalties. I know it's only lap 10 of 36, still got another 26 more laps, and that's to say that though Reservoir now also picks up the 3-second time penalty, which is actually going to hinder him more than anything, as he has a massive tank slapper. As Evans now picking up a 3-second time penalty. You know what, I shouldn't have opened my mouth
Sweet Ross
because I've now jinxed it all as yeah, Sweet Ross into the wall. I don't know if he hit the wall though.
Meanwhile, T-Bram really just romping away up front. 30.2 for him. Reservoir Luke on a 30.9, like on 30.5. The Sen train, no one has got into the 30s yet. No one is better than 1.5 seconds slower than our race leader. If anyone's got any latent pace under them, they need to clear this group sharpish. Felipe looks like he's on a bit of a move. He's having a go at Toby. He knows he can't afford to rest on his laurels today of all days. He knows Koskappen's is there in his sights, and he's dueling away with the Williams. And there's contact between them on the exit of turn 3. Felipe is going to come out of that on top though, and does take P7. You can see now his primary antagonist in this championship just ahead of him, just a second and a half or so up the road. But yeah, these guys, this train, so much slower than the top 4 in this race. None of them are within, I mentioned 1.5 seconds of T-Bram. They're not even within half a second of Luke and Rezify in P2 and P3. They need to sort themselves out and get on with chasing that leading pack, because they're just going to sabotage their own races at this rate. I say that, and Taupe, I don't think he's given up on P7 completely. He's sticking very nicely to the back of Felipe on this lap.
Yeah, he certainly is, and I can also see, well, as you say, there's a lot of gaps that are now starting to form. As you say, the one between Koskappen and Nolan, of course, the 2 championship antagonists, are very sort of split up now. One nearly just 2 seconds behind as T-Bram setting the fastest lap of the race. Rezify now dropping another second, should be behind our race leader. Larkin, though, has caught up to the back of Luke, so that could be a bit of an interesting battle that will go down very soon, as Evans has had a spin out of the final corner. I think he tried to catch it and he's gone straight into the pit wall. As Koskappen now going to try and go down the inside of Sen in towards turn number 1. Sen left in the space, goes deep himself to have the inside for turn number 2, and then we'll have the outside for turn 3. A bit of contact between the pair of them. Koskappen almost shoving Sen out onto the side of the circuit, both using their ERS as well to see who can stay up ahead of one another. Sen though going to hold it down the inside in towards turn number turn number 4, sorry. Bit of contact between the pair of them. Koskappen will have the inside for turn 5, almost not leaving the space for Sen, but I think he just outlives a car width on the outside there, and that is Koskappen getting into P5. Bit of wheel back between the pair of them, but other than that, good. It was a decent racing, but now all of that battling has brought Felipe right back into the battle between these two guys, or between these two up in front of them. So now Felipe can have an opportunity of doing something, as Luke's gotten past Rezify. Yeah, so Rezify must have made some massive mistake.
He made a big mistake. He was about 4 seconds behind T-Bram, 4.5 seconds behind T-Bram. Luke was 6.5 behind T-Bram, so he's made a costly error in the S's. Because Larkin, I was just about to touch on that, was setting up a move on Luke. He was only half a second behind Luke on that lap, and Luke was nowhere near Rezify. So yeah, a very big mistake with Rezify, that we're going to see Evans Joshua into the pits this lap to retire. Yeah, that Rezify mistake, although it's given Luke P2, it has put a dampener on a developing battle between Luke and Larkin, but keep an eye on that. As Scream is retired into the pit lane, and you know he's hit the wall coming out of turn 17. We've got another safety car, and T-Bram, how would you like your luck? 7.3 second lead he had, that is going to come to an immediate and abrupt halt. He's going to go back to 0 once again, and Koskappen, Sen, Felipe and Taupe will be very grateful as well. They were 8 seconds adrift of the car ahead of them. And once again, Jack, we reset and we go again.
Again, T-Bram probably going to be absolutely fuming. I know he had a good restart before, but he's going to be again fuming that he's now going to have to do yet another safety car restart. So we'll see how he gets on with that. Evans did come into the pits. You were right, Jake. He came into the pits to retire, despite the safety car coming up before he came into the pits to retire. So he didn't end up actually going up ahead of that screen, who was actually retiring out on track, which is quite interesting to say. But yeah, T-Brum, Luke, both without a penalty so far. Reserfy in third, also not going to be very happy that that safety car's come out, because now it's not going to be the case that he only just loses the position to Larkin. He's now got Koskapper, Nolan, Tope, Miami all without penalties behind him.
Pit stops.
It's just whether he can hope. Yeah, I think we're going to see some pit stops as well for a fresh set of wet tyres.
And this is good. Is there anyone who's going to be hampered by this? I don't actually think so. I think all the teammates are kept far enough apart. Larkin takes out the bollard at pit entry and past Reserfy on the way into the pits. That's opportunism from Larkin. He's done a good job there. Sen hit the back of Koskapper very nearly as they're breaking for pit entry. But I think no one else is going to be hold. Felipe, there is sometimes a customary little second hold if you come in the same lap. Barely that. Felipe lost about 2 or 3 tenths of a second there coming in, but it does exist that if you come in the same lap as your teammate, no matter what the gap is, you'll be held very, very momentarily as the rear jackman gets out of the way. I think actually, has that cost Felipe a position to Tope, or was he behind Tope already? I don't think so.
No, it's cost him.
It has cost him. It has cost him.
Yeah.
So that has cost him a place, and Larkin was the big gainer because he's passed Reserfy on the way into the pits, so I just flashed on board with Sen there. He was power sliding, Scandinavian flicking his way through turn 1, and these are conditions perhaps reminiscent of Scandinavia for Sen, and but that's where we are. Chris has stayed out, worth noting. He's P2 now. He's been a cork in the bottle, and he's going to hand even more an advantage to T-Brum than the Canadian had anyway.
I'll tell you what's also interesting, Jake. I don't know if you've got the tyre graphic up at the moment, but we have got one person on the set of the intermediate tyres, and that is the American, Mr. IRT Rex, down in 10th position. He has opted to go for a set of intermediate tyres. I suppose it's a brave call, but I just think it's too wet. I don't think it's intermediate conditions. I think it is still wet conditions, and I won't be surprised if we see him getting eaten up when that safety car does come in. And yeah, you just touched on that as well with Chris staying out. He's on 9 lap on wet tyres. He did pit early on. I think he was one of the ones that also picked up damage quite early on in the race, and yeah, he changed for a new set of wet tyres towards the beginning. He is now, well, I'm into second position, which is, you know, it's a plausible feat if he's able to maintain that. So we'll see how it goes down, I suppose, if Chris is able to try and maintain that position.
Yes. Sorry, I was just briefly distracted something. I think, just from looking on board with Chris for a few corners, I'm not backing him. Sorry, not Chris, Rex. I'm not backing him on those inters. They look a handful. They look like they just want him to go straight on at every opportunity, and he's not even going particularly quick. Just the way the car is responding to his inputs doesn't look particularly great. Chris, on the other hand, well, if the tyres are right on the bubble of being able to do a full race, taking 5 laps off that distance for Chris may well get them to the end. So clearly he thinks it's possible. He thinks it's doable. So why not? Behind him, where can you see Koskapper resetting and sticking with this battle? He had an atrocious first restart. Do you think he can get his head back to where it was at the start of the race on this second restart?
He's going to need to, because otherwise then in total Nolan's only 2 positions behind him, or 3 positions behind him, should I say, as a safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. So T-Brum will take us through yet another safety car restart. But yeah, Koskapper definitely needs to get his head in that game, because I know even though Reserfy and Chris up in front have got penalties that will promote him into 4th, you know, Nolan also can get promoted up into 7th with those guys out in front, and Reserfy also having that penalty, as well as Sen. So in fact, he might even get promoted up into 6th. So yeah, not only does Koskapa need to try and get past Resify, but he needs to try and get past Larkin, get past Luke, if he still wants a shot of the title battle with Nolan and potentially even taking the championship lead for this evening. We are now back underway. T-Bomb has gone at the exact same point as what he did before, has kind of kept Chris sleeping, and Luke is now trying to prowl onto the back of the Alpine. He's going to try and go around the outside. I think there's a little bit of contact between the Alpine and the AlphaTauri. I think Chris is going to back off of this one though. Luke is going to sweep it around the outside, almost going into the back of T-Bomb though. And Luke is now inheriting second position out on track. Larkin also not able to try and follow what Chris was able to, or follow what Luke was able to do, as that is Sen going around out of the exit of turn number 3. Unfortunately, that medium traction for him has not actually paid dividends for him on this occasion, and I think he has gotten himself some wing damage. Yeah, his front right end plate. Oh no, sorry, no, his front right end plate is still there. But yeah, I think Sen has definitely gotten a bit of damage. So I think, unfortunately for the Mercedes, because he's running quite well in that race, just keeping up ahead of Koskapen. So that's one person down. It's now promoted Felipe up into 8th, and it's now 2 positions between Koskapen and Nolan for this race, as Sen has gone around once again, somehow just before the start of the S's.
Resify picking up a second penalty at the same time, as well as Rex and RJ are dicing their way through turn 12, and this battle is already cutting them adrift from Miami ahead of them. And I think you can see from this, the visual evidence is the intermediates are not working for Resify at all. Last time the race for T-Brum, he lowers the bar once again, 30.0, in breaking the 29 barrier very quickly. I should imagine, I think Rex is going to be in for a hellish few corners here. RJ is first up, and I think he's going to make that move. As we look at Larkin making a move on Chris, perhaps, and Chris said, or spooked very deep at turn 1. He's going to come back on the track with Resify for company. Resify will slip through. Chris will slip into P5 and into the clutches of Koskapen, Taupe and Felipe as 7 tries into pits, and then there were 14. Darry's just made a move there on Rex, who is continuing his slide, and look at Matty in this. He passed. I think Rex is just trying to get out of everyone's way, as Matty, I think, was fancying a move on Sweet Ross there, but couldn't do anything about the Alpine because there was an Alfa Romeo parked on the inside of the track in his way. Up ahead, Koskapen is the next to attack the back of Lix, and him and Larkin look particularly hungry for moves right now. I'll say that Koskapen had a very shoddy run through the start of the S section. So let's have a look at Larkin on the back of Luke. Said he was looking for a move towards the AlphaTauri before Resify's mistake pre-safety car. Well, now there's no one between them or ahead of them to make a mistake, so Larkin is in a good position now to see if he can unseat that AlphaTauri for P2, as Matty passes Sweeros coming to stadium section. Sweeros isn't going to give this up lightly. He's going to force his way back through argy-bargy style and takes P12 and a championship point with it, but Matty also not inclined to give that place up, and it's going to be a drag race through turn 17 towards the start-finish line. I think Matty's going to come out on top, but that battle will continue all the way towards turn 1. Where's Larkin and Luke? Nothing being done there, as Koskapen said, passes Chris now into turn 1. Chris, is he going to put that back into turn 2? He is. He's going to give that Red Bull side pod a wheel of his Alpine, but he can't do anything and has to settle for 6th, and instead he's opening himself up to the advantage of IRT Taupe in 7th, and Felipe lurking just behind them. We're starting to see what we saw before, Jack. Koskapen is leading a split again. We've got T-Brum, he's walked away. Luke, Larkin, Resify, albeit in a different order this time, and again Koskapen is leading a split in the field with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, he's managed to make up the position that I said he needed to, but now Resify, yet another 3-second time penalty. That's 9 seconds for Resify. So he's now going to drop back behind Koskapen, behind Chris, behind Taupe, behind Felipe, behind Miami, behind Darry. T-Brum picking up a 3-second time penalty as well. If he's going as fast as he is, then there's not really a point. As yet, a VSC has just come out. I'll tell you why, Matty has got no front wing. So I'm not sure what had happened there with Matty. I don't know if he had a spin or what, or well, I guess he would have had a spin if he would have gone into the wall. So I don't think he would have just driven in there out of choice. So yeah, very unfortunate for Matty. Now going to have to come in after even serving his drive-through before. Now going to have to come in, change that front wing, change the wet tyres as well, and go straight on back out. So, yeah, very unfortunate for the poleman, and he spun out in the final corner as well.
He's had bad dealings with both VSCs, hasn't he, Matt? He got a drive-through under one and then caused the other. Not going his way, but he's hanging around. 4 cars already retired. We've only just passed half distance in this race. Matty could still end up getting a point or more if we see further drivers retire. In fact, no, Matty has retired from the race. So we're down to 13. Everyone bar the last person running will get a point now, assuming no more retirements. And I wouldn't bet even a penny on that being the case. I think we're going to get back underway very shortly, and they'll be very keen to avoid a drive-through penalty if they can, because that would, with how bunched up the field is right now, that would absolutely destroy your race wherever you are on track if you get a drive-through, and thankfully they have all avoided it. Luke and Larkin and Resfire are big battle on track, and Tope and Felipe and Miami as well. Miami is bringing himself into this midfield battle. He wasn't really too close to it earlier on under the first, before the second safety car. He's now in a proper battle with Felipe and Tope.
Yeah, he's definitely brought himself into the mix of things as well. We'll see if he's able to maybe make a move on our championship leader very, very soon as well. But Nolan, I know he's trying to play this a bit cautiously, but at the same time, I think this is where Nolan, if he can, try and get his elbows out against Tope, because he needs to get that move done on the German out in front of him. He'll have Chris anyway. I don't think Chris staying out on those 15-lap old wets, I think, is really doing anything for him now at this point. It's just losing positions on positions constantly. So I think, yeah, Chris, even though he still managed to make up those positions, he's still at a threat from losing those, especially from Tope behind him, who's just keeping him at arm's length for the time being. But yeah, Nolan needs to get this move done on Tope ASAP before Tope catches up to the back of Chris, otherwise he's just going to make things a bit more awkward. And then also brings Miami into it. It could then even potentially bring Darry into it. He's dropped back by about 4 seconds, but if there's battling that's going on, any sort of battles that will do would help Darry just to gain onto the back of these guys once again as well. Yeah, needs to just basically try and get that move done ASAP if he still wants a chance of sort of like a minimal sort of damage going on to his championship lead from Koskappen, who's in 5th, and Larkin, who's in 3rd. Obviously, he's got a nice little margin up ahead of Larkin, but Koskappen, really, as you say earlier, Jake, he is the one that is the main factor in this championship battle now. Not really Larkin, he is still there, but I don't think he needs to worry too much about Larkin for that time being. But speaking of Larkin, he is just sort of sticking to the back of the AlphaTauri very, very nicely at the moment.
He is, and I think this could be the last, he makes a move, because he's dumping all of his ERS, although it's the wet, you gain it back very quickly. Most of them will be dumping all of their ERS down the straight. Larkin is gaining, but it's toe only, and of course no DRS to hand. You mentioned Darry very briefly there. I wonder how this race could have gone from if he'd negotiated that first lap and ended it in 2nd place. I'd like to see what his place would have been like alongside Luke, Larkin and Resfire. We've not really seen it. He is in clean air right now, although he's 4 seconds off the back of Miami, and he's dragging RJ and Swiros along with him. Doesn't seem like he's got the wet pace compared to what he had in the dry, but still, I'd like to have seen what he could have done had this race gone slightly differently, as Resfire goes for walkies there on the exit of turn 6, and Larkin, I think he's just going to have to be patient. All he needs is one good exit out of turn 17 compared to Luke, and in the wet, you know, good exits are at a premium, so I don't think Larkin will have to wait too long before he's able to make that move on the back of Luke. He just needs a very strong end to the lap, and he's really close up there in the braking zone of turn 12. ABS doing absolute wonders for the McLaren driver, but he needs, it's not here that's the most important part, it's the exit of turn 16 here through 17 where he needs to stick to that AlphaTauri like glue, and if he can get a good run, and he's lining up the rear tyres there, getting a little bit trigger happy with the throttle, and you can't afford to do that. You see Luke just have a slightly slow exit, and it's so easy to get just super excited and be like, oh, I can make a move here, and before you know it, you could be in the wall, as Nolan found out in qualifying when he was on course for pole position, and then he quickly found himself out of qualifying. But Larkin, he has got an advantage down the straight. It is just that exit out of turn 17 he just needs to pick up, and I think he'll have P2. As Reservoir goes for walkies once again there.
Chris as well going very deep in towards turn number 1. Tope is now going to be able to get that move done through turn number 3 on down in towards turn number 4. Chris, I don't know what happened with him. I think may have just missed his braking point. Went extremely deep into turn 1, which then meant he went deep in towards turn 2. And yeah, the German manages to get that move done on Chris. It's now put a car between Tope and Nolan. And now, of course, Chris, obviously he's still in this race no matter what, but with that 3-second time penalty, as well as, well, nearly 10 lap older tyres in comparison to everybody around him, it's going to be really difficult for the Alpine to hold on up ahead of the AlphaTauri and the McLaren behind him. So, yeah, I think Chris is really going to be a bit of a factor in terms of whether Nolan can get the jump on Tope or not. And you can just see how much Tope has just pulled away from Chris. I thought Nolan was going to go into the back of the Alpine then, but yeah, Tope is actually already getting away quite significantly from the back of the from the front of the Alpine, sorry. And yeah, I think Tope is just going to try and start to run away from him. Now he's not got a car in front of him. He's got some nice clean air. He can try and catch up to Koskapin at his own pace, as well as having the car, as I said, between himself and between Nolan. Miami as well. He's doing a good job of keeping up with these guys, and I feel like we could see some moves go down, maybe in the next couple of laps there, Jake.
I think Nolan will be panicking now a little bit. Now that Tope has got past Chris, Nolan will be thinking, worrying that he's going to get cut off from Tope. And that'll be a place he can see disappear up the road. I think he'll start to panic a little bit and threaten. Think, does he need to try something now to get close to Chris and make a move on that old wet shod Alpine? Although his immediate attention should be directed behind him, because in Miami had a much better run through 1, 2 and 3 as Chris gets out of shape there through turn 5 on exit turn 5. And yeah, you mentioned Felipe can see Tope disappearing away, and Larkin's out of the race at turn 8, and that blows his championship chances completely, out of the water, and may just have completely ended his season. I'm not being melodramatic there. 6 races to go after this one. That was a mistake he could not afford to make on any account, and it's something we've seen, not to that extent, but costly errors we have seen galore from Larkin this season. It's a full safety car, the third one of the day. T-Brum will be spitting feathers up at front. An 8-second lead wiped out once again. Luke will take P2. Reservoir third. Koskapin gains big in this, you'd have to say. He's got yet another chance. With Reservoir's 9 seconds of penalty, he's smart money for a podium. And Felipe, once again, just by avoiding trouble, he's found himself another place, and at the expense of a championship rival. But what a costly error from Larkin.
Yeah, you can't be afforded to do that, especially in that championship battle, when not only has T-Ron going to be spitting feathers, he's got that 3-second time penalty that he picked up earlier on as well. So that's going to put the Canadian even more under pressure, even though he could have just sort of stayed up in front. If he had no penalty, he's now got to try and, replicate what he's been doing anyway, so he can probably just try and drive as best as he can, like he has been for the past couple of laps, past 24 laps. But yeah, I think the gaps in total have added up to about 21 seconds that T-Brum's had out in front between these 3 safety cars. So yeah, T-Brum is not going to be happy if he doesn't win this race after this safety car restart. And yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued on how, as I say, the rest of this is going to go down, and whether if T-Brum is going to be able to pick up this win for this evening as well, be the 3rd race win of the season, and sort of chucking his hat in there, kind of like what Lifeboat was doing, but chucking his hat in there, for I'd say a top 5 finish, maybe even a top 3 finish in a championship. Now that Larkin has unfortunately DNF'd in there as well. So yeah, as you say, Drake, that's blown that wide open. That's really, I think that is Larkin's championship chances now, pretty much on a very, very thin line now. I don't feel like he's going to end up getting this championship, to be honest with you. Both Chris and Miami have both come into the pits, interestingly enough. I think they should still come out in front of RJ and Sweet Ross, but yeah, this might be a decent start for them to try and make a charge back through the field.
I think you've got to differentiate yourself somehow in these circumstances. I mean, Chris, it makes sense, he was on very old tire anyway. Miami, why not? It's his best chance to make any kind of forward progress in this race. But for Larkin, 7 points now in the last 3 races across Imola, Portugal, and now Mexico. And you have to say the points lost to Imola and the points lost here were his own undoing, and then damage on lap 1 at Portugal, not his fault, but we've seen mistakes from him. I think was it Silverstone, he had a couple of spins when he had tremendous pace, and I think we saw it. Did we see it at Bahrain as well, and China? I think something happened to Larkin at China. He had very strong pace, didn't he, but didn't end up winning that race. Or did he win that race? I'm chatting, but anyway, we've seen it a few times, haven't we, where he's been in good positions, made mistakes, and Imola and today the most prominent examples of that.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And just having a look at China, no, he didn't even take a win at China. He's only won 2 races so far this season. He did win at Bahrain. Bahrain was a sprint race as well, so he didn't even win at Bahrain. He did win. His only win so far this season, which is a bit of a weird one, is actually at Japan. So
it's a
that's
wet race though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe it was. And Abu Dhabi, he picked up a podium. And then I think he may have picked up a podium in one of the races. I think it was in the feature race in Bahrain, but he didn't win there. So, yeah, I think this is... I don't know what's happening with Larkin, but he's just not on a log period. He's on a bit of a log period. Luke's got to overtake him in the championship at this point, especially with Luke sitting in second. Technically now, a net first with T-Brum's penalty.
Yeah, but we're going to have 10 laps of race at the end of this one. It's a tall order. It's the tallest of tall orders. I think for Luke to stay within 3 seconds of T-Brum between now and the end of the race, that's a third of a second per lap that he can afford to lose, and he's not been within that of T-Brum at any point in this race. And to do that, he's going to have to really push the limits as much as he can. And of course, he's going to have to push to stay in that 3 second window. And the more you push, the more he runs the risk of picking up his own penalty. So I think Luke's main focus will be on Koskapen probably, and staying in P2. I think he knows he's not necessarily in a position to challenge T-Brum. I think, just look at the fast laps there, T-Brum's fast laps are 29.2, Luke's is a 30.4. In fact, lots of drivers on 30.4s. Luke, Reservoir, Koskapen, Felipe all have PBs of 30.4. Dari, interesting, I mentioned him earlier, 30.2. So Dari has got some pace, and we've got safety car in this lap.
Yeah, so we'll see what the restart's going to be like for T-Brum. Once again, the third safety car restart for the Canadian. Feels like there's been a lot more safety cars, but I believe this is his third safety car restart for this evening. So we'll see what he's able to do, see if he's able to get that gap from Luke once again. He did it with Chris, he did it with Koskapen. Is Luke going to be the one to also fall for it on this safety car restart? T-Brum just trying to back him up as much as possible, and we'll see when T-Brum does elect to go. He usually goes just past the final corner. He's done it again this time. Luke has read it nicely though, a lot better than what the others have done before, and he is definitely in striking distance of T-Brum. Toby's overtaking Koskapen. So Koskapen now once again behind Tobe, and it's now the 2 championship protagonists battling with one another for P5. Nolan is now all over the back of Felipe through turns 1, through turns 2. Felipe all over the back of Koskapen through turn 1, through turn 2, and turn number 3, but not able to make any sort of move for the AlphaTauri as Dari makes a little bit of an error. Dari's out.
He was in a drag race with Chris, just piled the throttle on far too much, and the car couldn't handle it, and he speared into the wall. And then there were 11. Sweeros is now going to inherit P11, and no safety car for that one. We're just carrying on, but yeah, that was just a rookie mistake from Dari. Mentioned he had some good pace less than a lap ago, but there you go. There's in sympathy with lap 1. Can't keep the car on track side by side with the other drivers around him. And look at Chris now on those fresher wet tyres. He's going to get past Felipe into turn 12, and he's got Miami directly behind him, also on fresh tyres. Felipe needs to keep his wits about him. in the next couple of laps, because Miami, RJ, Rex, all on fresh tyres. Felipe is a fish out of water, a rabbit in headlights right now in P7, and he's going to really struggle, I think, to keep those guys behind him. Chris now is going to make another move, drives clean around the outside of Tope at the last corner, and takes P5. Those fresh wets are worth their weight in gold right now, it seems, although Tope isn't content to settle for P6. He's going to fight this one back into turn 1, and behind them, Miami is making a move on Felipe as well, round the outside. Felipe has to measure this, how much he wants to fight this, what's the risk worth, and he can see Chris and Tope barging wheels ahead of him, and he is getting his elbows out. Felipe, he defends bravely and triumphantly from Miami, who will stay in P8, but no doubt he's going to come again in a lap's time. And Felipe knows Koskappen's up in P4. He knows he can't afford to give up any more points now. He doesn't have the luxury of a 30-point lead that he's had previously in this season. He needs to fight for every place.
Yeah, he definitely does, but he's got to be careful when doing fighting as well. It's good defending from Miami. Miami does need to also get a little bit of his elbows out if he wants to get the move done. As Reservoir yet another 3-second time penalty, and that's a massive tank slapper coming out of the exit of the S's. There's 12 seconds worth of penalties. I didn't even also realise Chris has 6 seconds worth of penalties as well, so he will drop back behind RJ. Even if he gets the gap of a 3-second gap, he will still drop behind RJ from the looks of things. And I also realised that Tope, I think you did cover it, but Tope getting back past Chris, I think that was after turn 3 from the looks of things. The German now back up into 5th position. Of course, Chris has those 6 seconds of penalty, but on the fresher tyres, he wants to try and go for some sort of move. But here we go, Miami now onto the back of Felipe. Felipe is trying to use that ERS as much as he can to try and defend, but I don't think he's going to be able to do anything from now. Miami is going to go down the inside of Felipe, down in towards turn number 1. He's got the quicker straight line speed. Nolan is going to try and brake a lot later down through turn number 1. He means he will have the inside for turn 2, and it does that beautifully. We said he needed to defend, and he is doing a job of defending like that as well. So now Miami needs to try and think of a different way of getting past this AlphaTauri. I don't think he's going to be able to do it down in towards turn number 4, but he needs to try and think of another way of getting this done, because otherwise he's just going to lose touch from the guys out in front of him, and then it's just going to mean that he could be losing out on some pretty decent points for this evening.
We've seen Miami come to blows multiple times in wheel-to-wheel combat this season. If ever there was a time Larkin wanted his teammate to have a crash, I think it's right about now, to be honest with you. But good defence from Ariel Felipe to hold on to 7th place. I'm intrigued as to how, if Chris can get past Tope, how far can he get away from Tope, from Felipe, from Miami? Could he even pull the 6 seconds that he needs? And then wheel-to-wheel into turn 12. Tope brilliantly defends around the outside, switches to the inside for 13, and Chris is being frustrated here. For the sake of his penalties, he needs to make the move sharpish. A 29-0 now for T-Prom out front. He has comfortably got that 3-second gap, but he can't afford another penalty, and then he will really be in shaky ground. But let's have a look behind. Miami has made a big mistake on that lap, because he's now behind RJ. We missed that, but did you see it?
No, I didn't see that, so I'm not sure what had happened with Miami there, but I'm sure we'll find out after the race as to what actually happened with him in these closing stages of the race. Reservoir still 7 tenths behind Luke. Not much that Reservoir can do. Chris has a massive tank slapper at turn number 3. Is that going to allow Nolan to maybe go for a move? No, I thought it was a lot closer than what he was expecting, but yeah, no, unfortunately Nolan is unfortunately for Nolan, he can't make that move on Chris. But yeah, Chris, massive tank slapper, may need to just sort of calm it down a bit to still have a decent point position, because otherwise, I mean, at this present moment, he will still drop behind Felipe, RJ, and Miami down into P9. But he needs to try and keep a cool head, because he's on those fresher tyres, and because Nolan is really sort of playing a blocker for him with those other guys behind. He needs to just try and keep a cool head, get past Tope, and just try and drive off as much as he can within these last 7 laps or 6.5 laps.
Went very wide at 11, and that's invited Miami in. And we've seen this a few times, haven't we? When Nolan's been in a position where he's under threat on worse tyres with damage, it just seems to all pop off behind him, and he just merrily goes on his lucky way and happy way, and reaps the reward of it. That's not saying he's lucky, but it's to his credit that the mistakes are going off behind him, and he's not making them up in front, because he seems to be maximising the points he could possibly get right now. Although He's 7 seconds behind Reservoir with 6 laps to go. Reservoir could yet get a 12-second gap on Felipe. Unlikely though it seems. Felipe can't make a mistake like that as he lights up the rear tyres coming through turn 1. Reservoir himself is keeping a watching brief on Luke for P2. Probably not worth a battle to get into. We're wanting to go at quicker pace as he can and try to get as big a gap as he can over those behind him. But I don't think these two are running quick enough compared to that midfield train in order to for Reservoir to really gain any places here. He's still on course to drop to P9 behind Miami, or P8 because he'll be ahead of Chris. But I feel like we're just waiting for a move to happen right now, and Miami seems to be the one in the best position to do so. He's 2/10 behind RJ as they come through the S section. Both of these on fresh tyres, and they've both slipped to a 1.5 seconds behind Felipe.
Yeah, they definitely have. So I think Nolan must have found a little bit of pace. RJ's made another mistake. And Miami's sort of just keeping to the back of RJ. Nolan, though, he can't seem to find any pace to get up to the back of both Chris and Tope out in front. Of course, Chris has the fresher tyres, but I'm quite surprised that RJ and Miami haven't been able to sort of catch back up to the back of the AlphaTauri's. Here we go, Chris using that ERS, although he has no ERS now, he left to use, whereas Tope still has a bit to play with to, try and defend from the Alpine behind him. They're not going to see the red flashing lights because the lights are all flashing red entirely, purely because of the wet, so they won't be able to tell if their ERS is low or not, other than if they are watching the stream. And Chris really low on ERS now. He can't make any sort of move on the German out in front of him. Tope is doing a very good job of holding on up ahead of the Alpine on the much quicker tyre as well, so it's good defending from him. Reservoir, he needs to try and get past Luke. There's no doubt about it, but at the same time, Luke, he just looks so much stronger in certain areas, but then Reservoir also looks stronger in other areas, like through the S section. You can just see how much he closed up to the back of Luke, and as I said, he needed to get a move on him ASAP. He might even do this going down in towards the stadium section. Luke's going to hold it inside for it, and in fact Luke just lets him go. RJ picks up a 3-second time penalty for his troubles now as well, so that's a penalty for the Red Bull, and not going to be able to, well, no, there is still a chance he could jump up ahead of Chris, because Chris has 6 seconds of penalty, so there's still a chance RJ could jump up ahead of him. But Reservoir now up into second. Luke doing the smart thing, knows that he's not going to be able to get up to the back of T-Brum, so just lets Reservoir go, and now it's up to Reservoir to try and pull up a gap up ahead of all of those guys out behind him, of Koskapen, of Tope, of Nolan, and of Miami. And the gap from Reservoir all the way down to Miami is just over 9 seconds. Sorry, just under 9 seconds, shall I say? No, just over 9 seconds. Sorry. So yeah, Reservoir, he needs to try and get more of a move on, otherwise he's dropping down to probably about P9 at the end of this race.
This race is petering out a little bit, isn't it? It's only going to come down to the penalties, where Reservoir ends up, where Chris ends up, and where RJ can do anything about Miami behind him. I think we are looking probably at how this race is going to end on track now, barring any last minute mistakes. And I can't see anything happening for RJ in Miami. Those fresh tyres have done absolutely nothing for them in the last 4 or 5 laps or so. Miami going from very challenging the back of Felipe to now settling for a 9th place on track at best. And Luke is just happy to let Reservoir go with those 12 seconds penalties. Credit to everyone, has to be said, who has not picked up a penalty. That is the 2 AlphaTauris, Miami, Sui Ross, and IRT Tope as well, and QVR Koskapen. So RJ letting the Red Bull owned cars down in this race, has to be said. I'm just looking for something to happen, Jack, but doesn't seem like it's coming. Chris once again is close up to the back of Tope, but I'm sure just as he gets close enough for a move, he'll make a mistake and fall 2 seconds back again.
Yeah, I suppose there is that opportunity. Reservoir's out. Reservoir has just dropped it out of pole number 3. Is there going to be... Is it too late for a late safety car? I think it is. I don't think we are going to have a safety car. I think, as I said, if that was a lap for 4, we might have had a safety car come out for those last 2 laps, but I think T-Brum is going to be very happy that he's in his last 3 laps because there is not going to be a safety car. But we're now down to 10 drivers. I think Resify might still get the 2 points for finishing in 11th. I think. I'll have to calculate it after the race and have a look, but there is a chance that he could still pick up the 2 points for P11 because he might have completed 90% of the race. Again, I'll have to check that afterwards, but yeah, that's Resify now out of the race, and what could have been maybe a couple other decent points is now a potential of 2 points at the end of this race. Maybe not even that. We know, again, we'll have to find out after the race has finished. If it is the case he is able to pick that up, but we're on the penultimate lap now, and with all the, well, now that Resify is out, the penalties really are now just relying in the midfield, and obviously with T-Brum, but T-Brum is already an age gap up ahead of Luke behind him in second. So yeah, I kind of want to toot my own horn here, though, Jay. Both T-Brum and Koskappen, first and third, I said the ones we need to watch out for this evening. I guess I was right.
I think in Koskappen's case, I don't think he's particularly had the pace, has he? He's just not made a mistake, which I suppose in these kinds of races is a credit to him. You mentioned it would be a race of attrition. Boy, were you right. 10 drivers remaining, 8 have failed to finish. Various, some in the pits, some on track. Resify has done 90% races. 90% would have been halfway round lap 32. He got to the start of lap 34, so he has done the requisite 90% to get those 2 points. Chris is perhaps hoping to provide some last lap entertainment for us. He's close to the back of Tope, but that's nothing particularly new in this race. It's nothing that's come of it so far. Tope is within a second of Koskappen. If a mistake were to happen there, maybe there's a whiff of a chance as Chris pulls out Spot's braking point, almost hits the back of Tope and then catches a slide in the middle of turn 12 as they come now through the mazy, awful, laborious stadium section. Not really the kind of corners Formula 1 cars are built to deal with through there. That's why they feel so awkward and cumbersome when you drive it. We're on to our last lap of the race, and T-Brum, he's dealt with 3 safety cars and he's still going to win by 10 seconds on track. Without any safety cars, he could have capped the field even in a more dominant fashion than he did at Monaco, where he won by about 25 seconds. I dare say it could have been as many as 40 had we not had a safety car intervention today. Instead, he's going to win by a little over 8, I think, by the time we get round to the checkered flag, and it has been one of the most dominant, impervious victories I think I've seen in League of Europe, up there with Lifebout's victory at Canada and his own at Monaco. He hasn't put a foot wrong. The penalty is the only blight or blemish on an otherwise spotless performance, and Luke has, in Koskappen, driven calmly through chaos around him to complete a deserving podium. Dowry leaves the session there, dropped it from P2 on the first lap down to 15th place. Larkin crashed out from a potential podium as well. Resify, first the penalties dealt him a sucker punch, and then he ended it by finishing out on track. And Tope, still vulnerable to the advances of Chris, as Miami passes RJ. That's academic in nature with the penalty for RJ, but it is T-Brum that takes a superlative victory at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and it's going to be Luco 5HD who's going to catapult himself into some kind of championship contention with a P2. Koskappen maximises his gains in third, Tope's fourth. Felipe will jump to fifth, loses 5 points of his championship lead. It falls to just 9 points as we go into the break week. Miami takes a solid 6th, Chris 7th, RJ 8th, Rex 9th, and Swiros some way distant down at turn 12. It's going to cover him in P10, and Resify will pick up a token 2 points for his DNF, albeit in 11th place. And Darry, Larkin, Matty, Sen, Scream, Evans and Licks are your non-finishers. And it petered out a little bit at the end, Jack, but that was a thoroughly entertaining race, considering it was full wet all the way through.
Yeah, I was going to say, other than obviously the bit at the end, yeah, it was actually a really good race in comparison to what I would have thought it would have been for a wet race. So, yeah, good race overall though. T-Brum was just unstoppable, untouchable. no one could really pass him, even when everybody came into the pit, including himself, to put on a fresh set of wets. Chris passed everyone other than T-Brum. So, yeah, T-Brum I think just proved it tonight that he's deserved of chatter within within the top 5 of this championship for sure. That's 3 wins now under his belt. Is the relentless driver, and that actually puts him up onto 98 points, up ahead of Lifebout. So it actually puts him into 5th in the championship now, those T-Brums. So yeah, I think he's in contention with this top 3. Luke and Larkin definitely need to watch their backs, with T-Brum closing up behind them very, very quickly. Yeah, other than that though, very good race overall. As you say, top 3, congratulations to them. Tope in 4th from 12th on the grid, Nolan in 5th, 14th on the grid, Miami in 6th from 16th on the grid. They've all jumped up a hell of a lot, purely probably because of the crashes that had happened, but at the same time, they were the ones that kept it on track. So, very deservedly indeed.
Indeed, only 4 drivers who started in the top 10 finished in the top 10. One of those only barely. RJ started 10th. Our top 3 all started in the top 10. Everyone else who racked up or who finished the race did not start in the top half of the grid. Remarkable that it's those who qualified quickest were the ones who didn't make it to the end of the race. Bit of a tortoise and hare situation, as I can vividly hear James Head 14 saying. But it is break week next week, so we'll return in 2 weeks' time at is it Singapore? I want to say it is. So in 2 weeks' time, do tune in. Division 1 at 6:30, British summertime. How exciting is that? I hope you all, none of you miss your Lions. Sorry, the hour of sleep you will lose tonight if you are British. I think Europeans change their clocks same time as well, so unlucky everybody losing that hour of sleep tonight. Big up to anyone who's got a night shift, because they have an hour less to work. But 6:30 BST with James Head 14, L School 3000 for Division 1. Jess Gamer 95 will take you through Division 3. Myself and Jake will be back here for Division 2 at Singapore, and then Division 4 will be QVR Pack and QVR Verstappen. Well, will I be here in 2 weeks' time? I've got a feeling I'm in Manchester in 2 weeks' time, so I might not be here. It might be J. Cole and somebody else. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. I'll stop rambling. You can go and enjoy your evening. Have a lovely night, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.